Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Here we are.
Episode 10, Cornwall Property Podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we are here with the Ask Dan and James episode for you. So again, if you're not familiar with the podcast and ourselves, our mission is to help educate, inspire and encourage guys to get involved with property and help tackle this Cornwall housing crisis that we know is very live and kicking over here at the minute, unfortunately.
Yeah, we love this show dearly, but for me, this is one of our favourite parts where we get the listeners and viewers to come in and give us your personal questions. And just as a reminder, you can go to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, scroll all the way down. You can send us a message or simply go onto social media, onto our Facebook page, which you all know by now, Cornwall Property Podcast, and send us a message there. But we love hearing from you, so keep all your wonderful questions coming in.
For sure. So, right. First question.
Here we go. So this is from lovely Mike in Truro. Good question here. Mike has said, I own a property on a good central street in Truro, which is valued at 230 to 240,000, and a neighbouring property has just come on the market for 160,000. Wow. In a poor state. That's what we like to hear, to bring back. I'd like to buy this property, but all of my money is currently tied up in another investment, which I'm due to access in about 4 months or so's time. And as such, fear I can't move on this opportunity. Do you have any advice? Good question.
I like that question. That question at all. And for a number of reasons, really. Because one, looking at opportunities. Two, found an opportunity. And three, money's there, but I don't think I can access it. And that's, I think everyone's bugbear is that if you find an opportunity, it's kind of, I just can't afford to do it. Well, look, there are ways that you can do this. There are ways it can be possible to achieve this goal of yours, Mike, in acquiring this additional property. First of all, that is a very low price. If the market price is 230 to 40, as you've said. So first of all, I'll be wanting to make sure I do my due diligence on that, getting around there, viewings, getting people in there, take your builder around there, get surveyors done. Obviously, do your homework and do your research, because the last thing you want to do is purchase a property that is, as Mundic, for example, or something. But the good thing is, what I think is very encouraging, that you've got a property on that same market, not that same street, just a couple of doors up. So that's good, because you'll know the type of properties, and hopefully you know that road and that area well, and you may even know the neighbour perhaps if there's someone still living there. But with it being in such a poor state, it doesn't sound like there may be or there won't be someone in there. But to answer the question then, so do you have any advice? Money's tied up. I want to purchase this property. Money's tied up. Money will be available by the sounds of it, but not currently, and I don't want to miss this opportunity. So first thing I'd be looking at is, well, look, how could I raise this money with someone else? Could I maybe joint venture with someone? Or could I, I'm saying joint venture quite loosely there, but for those that aren't so familiar, a joint venture might be like, James, would you like to do this, to do something together maybe? Maybe you can put up the money, I'll do all the work in terms of the refurb, and then we can split the profit. Or it might be that we just share everything 50-50. I can put up some of the money, because it sounds like you've got some, but not all of the money here, Mike. Maybe I can put up some of the money. James, if you could put up some of the money, we can then go halves on that, perhaps. So there's definitely ways of working around it. But it might be that you could say, James, you could put up all the money, I'll do all the work, and then we can both profit that way. You've hands-free investment. So there are ways then, Mike. So the first thing I think is, well, look, go for your phone book, go for your family. Look, is there anyone you think might have some money that could help or would be interested? And I make contact with them and say, look, I've got an opportunity here where we could both do well from. Would you like to get involved? And is that an opportunity? If not, the next thing I'd be looking for is, again, a very key member of your power team. You recognise that James and I refer to a power team quite often during our podcast, because that is essentially what they are for us. They are our power team. They are our team that help us get to where we need to be. So a very, very, very key member will be your mortgage advisor or your finance, someone involved with the mortgage side of things. So maybe you could look at a short-term loan in terms of a bridging finance. So it might be a vehicle where you could get a short-term loan for 6-12 months, depending on how long you think the refurbishment would take. I definitely advise always taking a loan a little bit longer, so you don't get stumped with a late payment or things like that. So if I think the work's going to take me 6 months, well, I get a 12-month loan just to be safe, with making sure you've got kind of like very limited or to no early repayment charges. So you could pay that back sooner if you could, with no charge. So again, it's just finding that cash. But the beauty here is, from what I'm understanding, Mike, is that you've got money coming. So worst thing is, as soon as your money does come in, you could pay off that bridging finance or that loan or whatever you've got for have agreed. So there's ways around it. But the beauty is, Mike, what I'd be looking at here is 230, 240,000. I'm always the contingent one here. I'd always say, well, I'll go for 230,000. Okay, well, if I was to buy to let this, if I wasn't going to sell it as a flip, so if I wasn't going to buy it, add value and sell it and keep the profit, and I wanted to buy it, keep hold of it and let it out for an income each month, then you'd be looking at, right, okay, well, what kind of mortgage product would I put on this? Because I would definitely advise putting a mortgage on it, because you'd be silly just to have your cash sat in there where you could maybe do something again after with that cash. So buy the property at a good price. Look at the end value. So you're at 230,000. Well, the general, you're the finance man, James. General loan to values here would be 75 to 80%, really.
Yeah, 75% you get the more attractive rates, and 80% they do now exist because they weren't really on the market the last year, but they are back now. But you are going to be paying slightly more of a higher rate because obviously, it's a higher risk to the bank. But those products still are out there. But I'd say 75%
75
is
to 80.
fairly safe.
So 75%. So you're looking at, right, at the end of this development there, Mike, you're going to get 75% of £230,000 back if you wanted to go down that route. Well, brilliant. Well, can you pay for the refurb with that? Can you pay whoever you've borrowed from? Can you pay them back with that money? Does that cover your costs? Because if it does, you've got a great opportunity there. If it doesn't, and you've still got some money maybe left in, well, that's brilliant. If you've got an investment opportunity there, you get it at a good enough price, add enough value. That is generally the model that a lot of investors do. Buy at a good price, add enough value, put a mortgage on it at the end, pull as much money possibly as you can out, pay everyone back, and then go again. So, Mike, I think there's a few opportunities there for you. And again, if you've got any other questions about maybe some of the aspects I've just mentioned here, obviously, please do get back in touch and we'll hopefully go over those again. But James, anything I might have missed and you do differently?
I think you've answered the question really well, Dan, and you've given some really creative ways that you could potentially help Mike purchase the property. But one thing I would say is have a look, Mike, here at the timescales, because okay, so we've established definitely that you want to buy the property, you like it, sounds like a really good deal to me from the price, and I know Truro fairly well, so well done for finding that deal. But your problem here is actually getting the access to the money in 4 months. Well, if we break this down and look at the average house price takes 3 months to buy anyway, you're not actually going to need any money until about 3 months' time, at which point you're only 4 weeks away from actually getting the money. I'm not saying you want to drag your heels with the sale here, but if it's in a really poor state, you could probably justify that you need to do a lot more due diligence. But look at the other developments. I'm a serious developer. Have a look at this other project I've got going on. I do really want this property. I've got good credit rating. You'll give the spiel, but I think you could probably you could drag it out maybe for 4 months. But if you really want it, and that's another creative way, because if you were going to say you weren't going to get the money for another year, okay, go down Dan's creative ways of borrowing it, but reality is it's going to take you 3 months to get it anyway, maybe longer with timescales with Cornwall Council doing the searches and 4 months probably isn't that unrealistic, so you could probably get it.
Yeah, very free. And I suppose it all comes down to how definite is that 4 month timescale.
Sure.
For the money come back. But they're very, very valid point. Very valid point. Because the general conveyancing side of things would be 3 to 4 months.
Until you actually need that money.
Do you need it?
Anyway.
No, very good point. So, hopefully that helped, Mike. Any other questions, please chuck them at us. We'd love to help if we possibly can. Let us know how you get on. Let us know if you do go ahead with that property.
Absolutely.
So, question 2 of today's show is from Jack. And Jack is also in Truro, which is obviously a target area for us at the minute by the looks of things. But James is going to chuck this question at you. Jack's question is, should I wait to buy in Cornwall as prices seem to be very high currently? So should he wait or should he just crack on?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's no sort of right or wrong answer to this really, but let's talk about the pink elephant in the room. We are property developers, obviously listening to this because you've got an interest in property, and it isn't really a buyer's market at the moment in Cornwall. We've seen massive growth. We've already talked about in our previous podcast about generally the UK having 10% increase in house prices. Cornwall in some areas have had 20 to 25% increases. So prices are very, very high at the moment. Now, I suppose it really depends on what you want to be doing with that property. If you're going to flip it, you want to be buying as low as possible. But although prices are high, we've got to ask ourselves, why is it high? And that is because there is more demand than there is supply. That is, doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out. However, as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, there are so many unencumbered properties. There are lots of deals out there. So maybe you need to look at are you going outside the traditional methods of going on Rightmove and just talking to estate agents? But, maybe could you do some direct to vendor? Those are the sellers. Could you do letters to try and find out who's selling their properties and try and find the off-market deals where you might get something a bit below market value there? Because, as we give examples, on a weekly basis where, there are properties in real need of renovation. So those ones are the ones that you can get below market value. But if you don't want to go to those lengths of trying to find the property and you just want to see what's on Rightmove, it might be a better idea to wait. But I think you should look a bit deeper if you're serious about buying somewhere, because a lot of people say, it's just too high on price to buy in Cornwall. But if you look a bit further, there are reasonably priced, and there are some deals out there for sure.
And Jack, if you listened back to, or maybe 2 or 3 of our podcasts ago, whereby we did a similar, it was on one of our market updates, but we were looking at the last recession, and we looked at, and I remember I was discussing it. It was saying that the last recession was in 2008, and you've kind of got your winner's curse, your buyer's curse, they call it, just before the recession hits. No one, obviously, you can't time the market. No one knows when things are going to crash and things, but there's generally a pattern. We've referred to it previously as an 18-year property cycle. But people have always said, when is the best time to invest? Well, the best time is always now. Just get it and invest it. Because the other way I'd look at this, Jack, and spin it on its head a little bit is, if I invested now, say it's a lot slightly higher, we're still going to see maybe a little bit of growth over the next couple of years, potentially. Say there was a bit of growth. You buy it now, you get 3% growth maybe this year. Maybe 5%. Who knows? Say you get, on average, 5 to 6% growth over the next year, 2 years. When eventually we do get a crash, it's going to happen. It will happen. When there is a crash, property-wise, well, the last crash only went down probably 10, 11% maximum. So you're not actually going to get too much. But it will always, as long as your investment is for the long term, you're not going to lose out. So if you're looking again for a little flip property project, buy now, do it up, sell it on. Now, probably not a great time to buy. If you are trying to purchase for property and you're investing for the long term, buy now. You can't lose if it's for the long term. Because if you've got the money, or you can access the money and you can make it work now, if you hold that property for the long term, another 10, 15, 20 years, you will not lose out. Something drastic has got to really happen. Property, it is very forgiving for the long term. So that's my kind of opposite spin on that. Would you agree on that one?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think also, Jack, a good thing to look at is you've obviously got money to invest, because that's, you asked, should I buy now? If you can buy now, then you've got money, obviously, to buy something. But I can't see, this is just my personal view, Dan, you might say differently, but I can't see the property prices in Cornwall going down anytime soon. Yeah. I think the growth will slow, and we are starting to see that come into fruition, but there is still huge amounts of demand. And whilst there's demand and versus supply, they're going to hold their prices. So if you're going to wait, well, how long do you want to wait and not invest that money? But then again, if prices do keep growing slowly, then invest now, and you're going to still see some returns. But as Dan previously said, if it's for the long-term game, I would probably buy now. That would be my own personal way, because I don't like waiting. I can be impatient, and I'm an investor, and I want to get on the the property increase. And I still think there is a tiny bit more to go yet before you see any downfall on property prices.
I don't believe there's going to be a drop this year. No, neither. Well, Jack, hope that helps. Thank you, James. Great answers. And if you've got any questions for us, please do get in touch. We are more than welcome to help. Don't think it's a silly question. There's no silly questions, because if you're thinking it, someone else will as well. So please get in touch. And again, with regards to getting in touch, you could email us, hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com. You can get more information about us and the podcast, and get in contact with us via the Cornwall Property Podcast website. Again, that is www.cornwallpropertypodcast.com. James, any other ways? Social media?
Yep, social media, as many places. You can come to us on Facebook. So all we want is just your questions to come in. We don't mind what, how you get through to us. Just get your questions in, because we absolutely love property, and there is no question that's silly to us. So just put it in.
Excellent stuff. Look, please subscribe to the podcast, and leave us a little review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, any feedback. And thank you again for listening.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
Bye-bye.